Hello and welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have the return of Madison Peele. How are we doing?
Good, how are you?
We're good. Again, we've kind of been in the lobby just chit-chatting and catching up. It's been a while since we did our last episode, but if you can sort of let people know like what's been going on and how you've been doing.
Yeah, so I think last time we talked, I had just gotten hired here at Florida State over the summer. So was able to get through the entire indoor season with that team and that program while facilitating the out-of-season training for beach volleyball. And then wintertime kind of transition. We're currently in a change in staff for indoor. We actually just hired our new indoor head coach today. So really, really exciting things to come with that. Just in their preseason training period. We start season in about 2 weeks. So super excited for them as well. So a lot of cool things coming down the pipeline within the first year here at Florida State.
So for people who might have not watched that episode, and it's something that I really want to emphasize, is that it was your GA at FSU, and then you went to USC, and then you got hired back.
Yeah.
So I love that story because it shows how, like, when you do really good as a GA or as an intern, they'll remember and they'll ask you.
Yeah, it was definitely a cool little journey and ride. Started as an intern when I was still in my undergrad at East Carolina University. COVID happened, went home. I was able to get into grad school down here and come back as a GA and continue to work with teams here and with this staff here. So in total, was here for about 2.5 years. When I finished my master's degree, I was looking everywhere for jobs. An opportunity came up at the University of Southern California. Was able to kind of land that job and have that be my first real intro as the lead of programs and getting paid for what I'm doing and things like that. But I was able to make some really cool relationships and connections here at Florida State, to where this past summer a job opened up, and one of the head coaches that I work with now asked if I would be willing to come back, and I was like, yeah, I would love to. A lot of the strength coaches I worked with before, they're still here as well, and they were talking to me about my interest in the position. So a lot of familiar faces when I came back in June to be welcomed back here, which was great.
I love that. What is something that's currently firing you up about this industry? This is a quick shout out to our main sponsor on this channel, TeamBuilder. TeamBuilder is an all-in-one platform that hosts programs, questionnaires, testing, anything that you may need for your athlete's performance. You can host it in TeamBuilder. TeamBuilder also now has 2 different sides, which is OS and Practice. For more information on TeamBuilder, check out the link in the description. And if you use code PAChalkup all together, you will get a 30-day free trial.
I've been diving more into kind of the sports science side of things. My major was in sports science, so I know how to look at load monitoring tools and use it for interpretation and things like that. I think where there's a big gap is, what do you do once you have a lot of the information? So that's something that I've been working on kind of this past semester and a little bit last semester too, of how can I take all this information I have and not just give it to my coaches, but essentially give them an action plan associated with it. So if we're looking at load from the week and we're looking at performance metrics associated with it, or we're looking at hours of sleep per each athlete, whatever it may be, how do they all overlay and intertwine? And what kind of decisions can be made the following week from maybe what happened the previous week based on the athlete's adaptation to training, and trends that we're seeing not just from one metric, but from multiple metrics that are taken throughout the week. So that's kind of something I've been working on, reading a couple books that involve it, talking with my director here at Florida State about his approach with soccer and how he goes about his monitoring system. Everyone does it different. So I'm trying to figure out what works with my program and my coaches to see what we can come up with.
100%. I like that too. So I also think that some coaches get into this trap of measuring everything. And it's a real slippery slope, because which is why I liked what you said, you're identifying things that can actually have an impact on performance, and you're only selecting a couple of metrics. It does get, especially if you're talking force plates, there's so much data you can get out of it. Sometimes you're just what does that mean? But we'll put it in anyways. How are you sort of differentiating what's important and what you can leave behind?
So in the fall, I'll talk about beach volleyball because the approach I do for them is different than indoor. And the system that I'm kind of talking about is one that I'm implementing with beach volleyball right now. So in the fall, every single Monday, the girls jump on a jump mat. It's built into their program, and I have a running log of every single Monday what they hit. And so the girls can see from the very first Monday we did to now trends and what they've been doing. Obviously, we go through different phases, 8 hours, 20 hours, whatever it is. So there's trends that you can kind of see, and we can also see improvements, declines in performance, whatever it may be. But I choose Monday because I want to see how they're feeling at the beginning of the week. If we did go 6 days and they had just one day off, was that one day enough to be able to recover and be able to go again? Or like, what kind of decisions are you making over the weekend to set yourself up for training on a Monday? The girls know that training's not easy, and you need to come into every single session being able to give your full intent. With that being said, a lot of them do make the correct decisions when they're outside of team sanctioned hours to be ready to devote to my training session and to practice and things like that. So with that being said, we kept the jump mat going into the spring because we already had the log for it and it's built into our program to begin with. And we'll use that coming off of travel days or tournament weekends to see, again, how quickly they recover and how well they're adapting to the demands of travel and playing when they're in season. The other metric that I chose to look at is a prone iso Nordic. So they're laying on the Nord board and they're just pulling their heels up. A little bit less invasive than a full Nordic, and we also do it on our recovery lift day, which is in the middle of the week. So it aligns well with our practice schedules. I talk with the coaches, so the training schedule I do aligns with their practice schedule, and across the board, Wednesday is the lightest day. So if we've got a moderate high day Monday, a super high day Tuesday, how are we feeling on Wednesday? What do our imbalances look like as we're going into Thursday, which is going to be another high day? And then Friday, we do a squat jump on the force plate. I want to see at the end of the week, after kind of having that recovery day in the middle of the week, how are we feeling going into the weekend if we were to have 6 days of practice right now? Are we able to put a good amount of force into the ground to be able to perform the duties we need to perform on Saturday if we have a Saturday practice, which is typically just playing games? So those are the three metrics I chose to look at, and the days of the week I chose. So they all kind of align with what we're doing, and they also align with their program. So Friday's a very concentric focused day. They do a squat jump on the force plate that day. Wednesdays is the recovery day. There's a lot of iso holds. There's a lot of just kind of maintenance work in there. So we do the Nordic iso pull that day. Monday is very explosive, very reactive, definitely our hardest day of the week in terms of lifting. So they do the jump mat that day.
Nice. I like how there's a little undulation in there as well, where it's like there's different focuses built into it. You kind of mentioned like looking at the Nord board and checking out asymmetries. What's your comfort percentage on asymmetries?
So the way I kind of target it is they're in the green if it's 0 to 10, 10 to, I think I put 15, they're in the yellow, and then anything above 15, they're kind of in that red zone. But I think one of the hard things with like Nordic testing is if you're doing it every 4 weeks or you're spacing it out a lot, then it's kind of hard to see trends. So that's why I wanted to do it every single week. Once you get better at a test, then your results start to get a little bit more accurate, just like when you jump on a force plate or you jump on a jump mat. You get a little bit more consistency rather than it being, okay, I had a huge imbalance in the right leg this week, then we did a 4-week phase, and then now I have a huge imbalance in the left leg. That was kind of what I saw previously when I would do Nordic testing. Like, it's not that I don't see value in the device or anything, but I think just like with any test, if you're not doing it regularly, it's hard to get constant trends to see what's happening. So that's why I chose to do it every single week, and those are the percentages that I look at. And again, I'm kind of taking them with a grain of salt. It's not like I'm altering a whole training program. I want to see trends based on those performance metrics paired with what was your player load from the previous day or that current day, also paired with how many hours did you sleep. So in total, like that's everything I look at.
Yeah. What are some trends that you've sort of found or finding?
So with the Wednesday being our lighter day, Thursday's a really, really hard day because not only will they have a hard practice where they're playing a lot, they also have conditioning with me. So just the total volume of load that day is really high. Our girls are very strong and very conditioned. So with that being said, our Friday jumps on the force plates, they're not bad. So that's been something very positive I can give back to the coaches, saying, hey, you guys told me you wanted a very fit and strong team. You got it. They're here. So just from that point, kind of help the coaches feel relief that their team is ready to go. We're strong, we're healthy, we're conditioned. That box is checked. Now let's focus on kind of really nailing down the tactical volleyball side of things to put together the team that you want to put together.
Yeah, I've got a funny story for you, and I kind of want to get your take on it.
Okay.
I was presenting the Italian Strength and Conditioning Societies. It's called a residential week, but it's essentially a 7-day S&C focused conference, and it's usually held at the Italian Olympic Center in Formier. There was a group of beach volleyball players. Now the coach is fantastic, but one of the questions that came out from people watching that session was like why he had different athletes doing different squats. So there was just a normal barbell squat. There was goblet squats in there, and then there was a step down toe drag. But you're not allowed to touch the floor. You're just before floor and then coming up. And a lot of questions I got afterwards was like why, and I was like, well, context. I need that before I make a judgment on it. But what is your sort of take on different ways of squatting beach volleyball players? Because again, they can be quite tall. Limb length is a real issue for a lot of people, and they have to be explosive as well. So different types of squats may or may not be better for different types of athletes. So what's your take on it?
So I actually use a lot of different variations of squats, whether it's squats, Olympic variations, whatever it is. I'll have maybe like the program I want to run, but there's like 5 different variations of it depending on who I'm giving it to. I think part of it comes down to what the athlete is comfortable doing. Part of it comes down to their training age. And then another piece that I think is important is what's going to be advantageous for them, what's going to put them in the best position, kind of like you were talking about with limb link and things like that. If they physically can't get into a certain position doing a certain exercise, then why give it to them? Why force, a square peg into a round hole? Like, it doesn't make sense. I guess like the example I'll give right now with our squat variations, I've got some girls doing weight releasers, I've got some girls doing Zercher squats, I've got some girls belt squatting. So it kind of just depends on the athlete. The ladies that I programmed the Zercher squat for, it wasn't that their training age was low and I didn't think that they could not physically handle the load on their back. I programmed the Zerchers for them because I wanted them to get better posture, strength, and control. There are also some of my ladies that are prone to back stuff. So I wanted to make their midsection a little bit more robust and stronger. Also teach them to load their glutes a little bit more. They were some very knee quad dominant people, and teaching them to load into their hips a bit, not only when they're squatting, but when they're making moves out on the sand. Yes, they need to be able to put force into the ground, but half the game of beach volleyball is being able to cover ground effectively. So jump height is a metric I look at, but it's not the end-all be-all for me. I want to have really good movers. If you can have a 5 blocker that can move, that's great. That's better than having one that can just jump. So that's a big focus for our program, is on kind of developing the athlete holistically and focusing not just on increasing vertical and force into the ground, but how can we move and how can we be effective movers with absorbing and transitioning the direction that we're going to, whether it's defensive disruptions or we want to cover ground to run faster, whatever it is.
I think it's interesting because volleyball, you're not really playing on a stable surface.
Yeah.
So when you are talking about jumping and the jump performance, how do you sort of analyze that and still give them what they need, but also making sure that they can cover efficient ground?
So with the jump mat that we do on Monday, a lot of that is to see, one, how they're recovering, but two, like, if an athlete can get a good jump, look down, and they see a higher jump this week than last week, they're fired up. They're happy about it. Is it the exact same jump they're going to do in the sand? No. But that's totally fine. It makes the athlete feel good, and it helps them understand that they're getting better. With the force plate jump that they do on Friday, I don't look at the height with it. I'm looking more at kind of like the force output with it, because I want to see how explosive they are later in the week after dealing with everything that the week has already kind of thrown at them. Can we still be powerful at the tail end of the week after we've had a really hard week. Those are kind of the things I look at rather than just solely jump height, again, to increase the buy-in factor. When it comes to developing the quality of it, a lot of that's done on our conditioning day on Thursday. We jump a lot on that day, teaching the body to absorb force and reproduce force, whether it's in a vertical or horizontal fashion. Right now we're doing a lot of horizontal force production in our conditioning day on Thursday. Eventually it will transition to more of a vertical force day, but we're doing more vertical force in the weight room right now. So I kind of get to touch it on both sides, and again, touching back to developing the athlete as a whole rather than just focusing on single qualities. They need to jump high. The higher they can jump, the higher contact they can have, and they can be a more physically aggressive team. Beach volleyball, yes, jump height's important, but it's not the end all be all. One of the best defenders I've ever seen and worked with has probably one of the worst verticals I've ever seen, but she's a really good defender. You can be a good beach volleyball player and not have a high vertical.
I think that's what's so interesting, because it's the same sport, but it's completely different sports.
It's completely different.
At the start, you kind of mentioned something that I kind of want to go back to. And last time we spoke, you were just starting with FSU, and that was them sort of off-season. Now you've moved into the pre-season. So how was that sort of changed, and how does the programs look based on those changes?
With beach volleyball, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So early on in the fall, it's very basic. I want you to get good at really, really simple stuff. Can we maintain good posture when we're doing A marches, A skips, things like that? Can we produce force into the ground effectively? Can we load our hips and load our glutes when we're decelerating? Can we control our bodies? So very early on, it's super repetitive, almost kind of boring. But I do put them in a different environment than the sand, so they are having to kind of learn new qualities. We do a lot of stuff on the turf or on the grass, but the movement patterns they're doing are very similar to what I want them doing in the sand. It's a different surface, so they have to really, really focus on the mechanical work I'm having them do. So throughout the fall, it's all very mechanical based, just kind of laying the groundwork for what's to lead into preseason. Now that we're in preseason, things are a little bit more quote-unquote sport-specific, free-flowing movements rather than more rigid movements, if that makes sense. I also do a lot of conversing with my coaches to ask them, hey, what are you guys working on, or what do you want the girls to work on a little bit more? So perfect example would be they were doing a lot of disruptions in one of their drills in practice. So if you're looking across the net trying to make the opposing team think that you're going to do something, but you're not actually going to do it. You're moving, but you're going to go back the other way. So teaching the movement mechanics with that and the footwork that goes with it, we implemented it into some of the conditioning sessions. So you're breaking down the mechanical work, so when you go into practice, your body already knows how to do it. Now you just have to kind of go implement it. So a lot of that just comes with talking with them. When we do our sand conditioning day on Tuesday, it's the same thing. I'm talking with my coaches of hey, what do you want them to get better at? Some of it is decision making and reaction stuff. So we'll go back to using tennis balls and things like that. But the coaches are there with me in real time. They do every session I run with the girls, the coaches are doing it too. So my coaches go to every single lift and they go to every single conditioning, and whatever the team is doing, they're also doing it. So I'm getting feedback from them in real time. And I'm also asking them hey, how are you going to coach this up later? And how do you want me to coach it up now so it's a similar language? Not only is that going to help with the buy-in factor from the girls, but the intention behind it is going to be tremendously higher, because they're oh wait, I'm going to do this later in practice. I should really lock in, because my coach is going to call me out to do it later.
How does that drive the intent between each session?
What do you mean?
So by obviously intent is the intentional behind that they're practicing. So if you're teaching the same cues, the same language, and they lock in, how does that then change that practice as well? Because I'm going to presume it's quite a nice feeling to see that then come all together.
Yeah, it is super nice. I think the biggest piece is just having the common language between multiple parts of the staff. Obviously, I'm not a volleyball coach, so there's going to be things that the coaches talk about that it's not my realm and it's not my space. So I might understand it, but for me to speak on it doesn't necessarily make sense. If I can take something you're doing in practice and break it down to a mechanical level and have you really focus on the qualities associated with it, and then you're like, oh, wait, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing later, and that's what's going to help me be better at this drill, be better at volleyball, better decision making, whatever it is. It just makes the staff as a whole become more unified. And when you're a part of a team, like whether you're support staff or you're the head coach, like having that unity really kind of builds something special, because the girls don't feel like they're going to these different departments to kind of get what they need to help progress them forward in their program. Everyone's as one unit moving in the same direction. And that's how you can see really cool gains and you can see really cool success, because there's attention to detail across the board, whether it's with me, with the coaches, when we talk about habits of high performance, whether it's with athletic medicine. Even when I first got here in the fall, I would go to rehab sessions and help the athletic trainer lead the rehab sessions. Like, we're a team. It's not just you go to her when you have something wrong. Like, no, we all need to talk about it. We all need to know what's going on, and we all need to kind of get through this together. We're currently doing a return to play with one of the beach girls, and I do it with the athletic. We're both out on the sand with her, putting her through whatever her return to play is that day, and having constructive conversations between the athletic trainer and I and the athlete. Because it's not just one person. Like, we can all learn from each other. I learn from the head coaches. They learn from me. I learn from the athletic trainer. She learns from me. But I think that's kind of the big thing that kind of creates the intent, is the athletes are like, wow, like, we're really unified, we can do this.
I think that's great. The UFCPI has a great system, and it's exact same as what you're explaining, and you can tell that the athletes get so much better because of that. With having this like open line communication, how easy is it to be like, okay, we need to go see her now, and like how does that then trickle down into catching things perhaps earlier than they happen?
Like, go see the athletic trainer now, or
yeah, like athletic trainer or any type of like, okay, let's see the coach, you're not quite getting this, so like let's tie in the coach to see if they can help as well.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example would be, so I mentioned that my coaches do the conditioning. The assistant head coach, his name is Nick. He very successful beach volleyball player, but he's a very smart mover, very smart guy. We were working on some mechanical stuff that they were going to be doing later in practice, and one of the girls could just not get it, and I tried coaching her up. I was breaking it down, and then Nick started coaching her up and giving her some different cues that I hadn't thought of, and he was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toes. I was like, no, talk, say more. Like, because she's understanding it with whatever you're saying, it's working. Like, you're not stepping on my toes. Like, again, like, I'm going to learn from you, you're going to learn from me. There was even some cues that I said, and my head coach heard them, and she's like, wow, like, thinking about things that way, like, really, really makes sense. And I feel like my change of direction's a lot smoother, and it's a lot better now. And I was like, yeah, sometimes you just gotta have to listen to somebody else. Like, it's okay. From the athletic medicine side of things, the athletic trainer and I have a very open line of communication. She's at all of my conditioning sessions. So like, if things happen during conditioning, she's there. Same thing in the weight room. I usually will have like my phone on standby. So like, if something happens, I have to change something, I'm like, hey, like, such and such, it's early, so like, she's not in yet maybe. I'm like, hey, like, this happened this morning, this person's feeling this, I told them they need to come see you. So she already knows that, like, hey, the expectation is the athlete should be reaching out, and I should already have this lined up for them when they come in. So it's less of the guesswork she has to do when they get there. Now, part of that's on the kid. They have to make sure that they actually follow through with what I told them that they should be doing. And this team's pretty good. We set the standard pretty early in the fall of, hey, if there's something going on, then you should be doing something to take care of it. It's not you tell me that something's going on and then you just go do nothing. Like, that's no. If you're going to tell me that something's wrong, then we got to go take care of it at ASAP.
We've all seen, hopefully by now as well, that you've gotten some new rings as well. So if you let everyone know the other sports that you're also involved with and sort of how that plays into your role at FSU.
Yeah, so the first two were beach volleyball in my first and my second year at USC. The second two I got in my third year at USC, and both of those were with the track team. My third year at USC, I took on the distance programs in addition to women's water polo, and then I kept women's tennis and beach volleyball. So pretty heavy athlete load. I wasn't the only strength coach that was with track. The main strength coach, Tatiana, she's still there. We kind of I helped her out by taking on some of her athletes and just giving her a little bit lighter load. Definitely was a unique experience. Track is its own beast to work with, especially if you've got two strength coaches that maybe do things drastically differently. So that was a unique learning curve to navigate that, and then also add more coaches into my circle, because there was a lot of meetings at USC. Weekly meetings with staff, daily meetings with coaches, like you were always running somewhere. So it was cool to be involved with a lot more people and get to know more people. Definitely a lot of organization that had to be done to make sure that everything was taken care of and all the athletes were tended to. I think coming back to Florida State, the success that I had with USC beach volleyball definitely kind of gained me a little bit of street cred coming in here. The work to kind of gain buy-in wasn't as hard, even from the indoor side. From the beach side, it's such a small community. Some of these girls that are here now, I either know them from when I was currently here before, or I know them through the recruiting process. Like they might have been committed to USC and I got to meet them. They heard about me from USC student athletes, and then they come here and then I'm here and they're like, oh wait, hey, I remember you. Indoor side of things, I didn't know a ton of the girls. There was a couple girls on indoor that knew some of the beach players I worked with, and they had heard my name. They're like, oh, she's great. Like you're going to love her. So again, kind of having the SC experience laid a great foundation, even from kind of gaining trust and buy-in from the coaches. I already had trust and buy-in from my beach coach. We had a great relationship from when I was here before. I knew the indoor coach a little bit. We weren't super close from my time before, but we knew of each other, and I did work with his program. But again, having success, coming back, he's like, oh, like I trust that you know what to do. Like you've had success before, which I don't think is a perfect way to look at things. Like everyone's got their own faults in some aspect, but I'm glad that he trusted me to do a good job.
And how does your approach different to the two sports play into now what you're programming and what you're putting out?
Yeah, so I mentioned how like beach started very basic in the fall, and now is like where we get to have some fun, like whether it's with the program methodologies or the sport specific movements, a little bit more free flowing rather than like super rigid stuff. I don't just do that to do it. You kind of have to earn it. Like I'm not going to give you all these fun, flashy things if it doesn't make sense. Like you can't move on to step 2 until you master step 1. My indoor team is very, very young. So with them, when I got here, the main focus was, okay, now I have to get trust, I have to get buy-in, I have to set an expectation with them, and I just need to make sure I have good movement qualities. So even when we were in season, things were very, very simple, very to the point. I just wanted them to be healthy and move well. Now that we're in the off season with them, the focus is still the same. I'm not going to progress them to more challenging, more complex things if we can't even hinge properly or load our hips to squat to a good depth or whatever it is. So I would say definitely the drastic difference is beach kind of adapted to things very quickly. They're a very, very coachable team, and they remember things. So we could go through like a very technical like sprint mechanic training session this Thursday, and they're going to remember it next Thursday. It's not going to be like I have to restart every single week and talk about, all right, how do we do a half kneeling start? Where's our force going if our foot's here? Where's our force going if it's here? Where do we want to project ourselves to go forward? They already know these things because they have remembered them from the week before, and they're a very coachable team. There are a couple that like you have to remind them of, but that's part of the job of being a coach. Indoor, since it was so touch and go and it was right into season, we didn't really have that time to develop those qualities. They're a very coachable team as well, and they do remember things. But with them being so young, the attention span's not quite there yet. So we're still working on it, but definitely more of a slow burn with them than with beach because they were just able to learn and adapt so quick.
Yeah, I think that's also the biggest difference with different types of sports. The cultures kind of change, and the emphasis on certain things also changes. Like I've probably coached track more than anything else, and I love track. Like coaching track athletes is a unique experience because you can literally throw the kitchen sink at them and they're like, yeah, sick, what's next? What's your sort of experience with that type of mentality of athletes where they're just like, yeah, sick, let's go?
I think it's great. They're definitely fun to work with. You almost kind of have to pull them back a little bit, especially if they express to you what their goals are and maybe their actions aren't 100% reflecting what they want their goals to be. Like if, let's say a goal is I want to eat better and I want to sleep more. Okay, maybe we should stop running ourselves into the ground so much and make sure we're fueling properly for the activity that we're doing. So different things like that. I guess another example would be I worked with a tennis athlete at SC, and this girl was a stud. She wanted the kitchen sink thrown at her all the time, and she was just a workhorse. But she neglected to pay attention to like her mental side of the game a lot. So I really encouraged her to focus on that a little bit more to help her develop those qualities. And then also just having her recognize that sometimes more isn't always better. Sometimes we can get very effective work in with less and it be exactly what we need. She's like, I want to get faster, I want to get stronger, but I want to do more. I'm like, okay, that's great. But we can't just keep doing more. We have to have a period of time that allows for recovery and for adaptation to take place. So really kind of breaking that down. So I think one of the more challenging pieces is like as a coach, as a strength coach, like you want to have fun with those people and you want to be able to give them all this stuff, but you also have to be the voice of reason sometimes and reel them back in to allow for that adaptation to take place or highlight other qualities in them that you think that could improve their game.
How do you go about having these hard conversations with them that's like they want to go 100% all the time, but you're kind of like, hey, let's maybe dial it back a little bit here and let's push something else?
Yeah, so I usually do athlete one-on-one meetings at least 3 times a year. I'll open it up. It's not mandatory, but it's highly encouraged. My door's also always open. The girls can come talk to me whenever. I've got a freshman on beach right now who she really wants to squat, deadlift, and clean. And when she got here, she didn't have the control to be able to do it. So took her some steps backwards to help build up that posture and that control I needed her to have to be able to complete these movements effectively and actually get something out of them. So I told her the reason why I was putting her on a different program. She told me what her goals were, what she wanted to do. I was like, all right, cool. I love that. Let's progress to it. She comes back after winter break. We've progressed to being able to do some of the things, not all the things yet. She's like, okay, when can I do these things? I'm like, we're still working on it. Like, there's definitely times where I see mechanical breakdown with you, and that's okay. Like, look at all the progress we've made. So having them acknowledge the work that they've done to get to where they're at, and then talk about the process to get to where they're going to go, rather than being like, just wait. So that's probably one example. I have another example would be, so I mentioned that I'm very close with the athletic trainer and the coaches. I'm also close with her sports psych. So if there's things that I'm seeing from more of like a mental performance side of things, or maybe energy levels having big fluctuations on the day-to-day, it just opens the door for conversation for me with the athlete to have a check-in with them, but also to update the sports psych on things that I'm experiencing and things that I'm seeing in the training space. I spend a lot of time with these girls. I see them 5 days a week and I'm at their practices. So you get to know them really well, and if someone's having an off day or an off couple of days, like, you notice it. I'm pretty close with a lot of them too, so like a lot of the stuff like that's going on behind the scenes in their day-to-day life, I usually know. And obviously the sports psych probably knows it as well, but just kind of being able to have those check-ins with the sports psych to say like, hey, like, not really sure what y'all's conversations have been about recently, but this is something that I'm seeing in my space from just low energy levels on the day-to-day. Just wanted to update you in case something comes up in your conversations.
Yeah. And how does that sort of then change when they're coming up to like finals and exams and like schoolwork is ramping up?
My girls know that I'm perfectly fine with adjusting course as long as you communicate with me. So if you've got a 6:30 lift the next morning and you had to stay up really, really late tonight to study for an exam and you're just absolutely smoked from the week, text me. Tell me what's going on. Tell me that you would love a different lift time. Tell me that you need adjustments, and I'll make them happen. Like, I'm very adaptable. I'm very understanding. But none of that happens without communication. Like, I'll get irritated real quick if someone wants to make decisions and not loop me into what's going on, and then I'm left in the dark and it's like, what are you doing? And then I look like the bad guy getting mad at them, but I just want clear communication. I guess like a good example would be if someone is ever coming like from a meeting or from class, like as long as you let me know you're going to be late or you're coming from something, I don't care. Like, that's fine. But if you're not going to let me know and then you walk in the door late, I'm like, what the heck, what's going on? Like, and I'm kind of mad. I'm kind of heated because I had no heads up. I was left in the dark. They're like,
I
I'm
can
so
see you getting
sorry.
amped up.
I was coming from something. I'm like, okay, you need to tell me that. Because the first thing I'm thinking if someone doesn't show up is, okay, what is wrong? What happened to them? Especially if it's early in the morning. Like, it's dark outside. Does someone get hit on their scooter coming to campus? So part of it is like a safety and concern. I'm mad. Part of it's like, okay, we need a little bit of accountability and communication, because it also doesn't look good to your team if you're rolling in late to something and no one knows what's going on. And that doesn't mean that they need to spill their beans to every single teammate and tell them exactly what appointment they're going to and things like that. But one of the expectations I have for the team when I work with them is there needs to be clear communication between not just me and you, but you and your teammates. So if you're switching lift groups, tell your team, because the team helps set up for each other. So if you're not there, then they don't need to set up for you, but they also want to know like where you're at. So instead of leaving people in the dark, like answer the questions and there's no unnecessary conflict.
Yeah. When I was at UW, we actually had someone get hit by a car in a scooter, which was like, it was brutal. Like by the time that I got there, he was already in return to play. So I had him for return to play. And it was really challenging because anything rotationally bothered him. So it's like trying to figure out that piece while keeping up with the conditional demands. Rough.
I can imagine. We experienced quite a few scooter accidents at SC. Where like the basketball gym is, you have to cross a really busy road to get to main campus. And all of our court sports plus beach volleyball were housed out of that arena area. So they were always crossing the street, and people in LA drive crazy.
Yeah, I've heard that too. No, but it was actually the exact same scenario. So football was on one side, Olympics on the other side, and there was a massive gap. Again, I'm European, so that's all we look at, unfortunately. How is that sort of changing from team to team that you're kind of coaching just now?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it kind of comes down to the demands. Every staff is going to communicate differently. Every coach wants different metrics. When I came into this beach volleyball program, we have so much here. We've got the whoop, catapult, Connexon, force plates, like you name it. There's so much sports science and tech, but like what
we
do
don't
you
say that word here.
What?
Whoop.
Whoop. Well, there's so much stuff here to where like it's overwhelming, but at the same time, like you have it, so everyone wants to use it. So when I met with the beach volleyball coach, I was like, okay, what kind of information do you want? What's worked well in the past? What hasn't worked well? And she was kind of like, well, I don't want to just be given information. I was like, okay, would it be better if I give you like a weekly synopsis and then an action plan associated with it? And she was like, yeah, that'd be great. I was like, I'll make it very clear. The last thing I want to do is take an athlete out of practice or like tell you have to decrease their load. If I'm seeing that performance trends are going down for an athlete, then I'm going to adjust training protocols. I'm going to do investigations to maybe their sleep patterns. I'm going to conduct meetings with them around nutrition or encourage them to talk to sports psych. Like there's a million other things I can do before I go to the coach and say, hey, such and such should do less today because their player load was high yesterday. I'm not going to do that. If it's a return to play, like that's a different case. But that was the first thing I told her. I was like, I'll give you an action plan, but the last thing I want to do is take someone out of practice. And the girls are fully aware of that as well. They know that, let's say someone is not recovering well, and part of it could just be to poor sleep habits. I can't control how much they sleep, but I can control what they're doing in the weight room. So if you're not physically prepared to go when it's time to train, then I'm going to give you a different training protocol that's going to align with what your body's ready for that day. So I had a clear conversation with the girls saying like, hey, if you get a text on a Sunday saying like your lift is going to look different this week, like this is why. And like they're totally on board with it because they understand like, yes, you're a student athlete. Sometimes you're going to have to stay up late. I'm not mad if you stay up late. But there's going to be different protocols associated with staying up late to be able to maximize our on-court performance. So those are very clear conversations that we've had. On the indoor side of things, I don't know exactly how things are going to look now that we have a new head coach. But when we had the old head coach, it was very like compartmentalized. So, like strength and conditioning was its own thing, athletic medicine kind of its own. We intertwine a little bit. Coaches were their own thing. So it's not as cohesive as beach volleyball is. I think part of that might just be the nature of the sport. Part of it could be just like the coaching staff dynamics. So I'm hoping with this new hire, it's a little bit more cohesive. But with that being said, the head coach, he didn't really he didn't care about the data. He was like, I just want them to be strong, be fit, and be athletic. I'm like, cool, got it. One of the assistants, the one that mainly did the practice planning, he likes seeing player load and things like that. He didn't really want to see jump count. We mainly just looked at player load, and then he wanted the drills classified. So like each drill is mapped out with a player load associated with it. So that's all he wanted. So that's all I gave. In terms of performance metrics, I mainly just kept them for myself for programming purposes rather than giving them to the coaches because it wasn't something they were interested in. The only thing that the head coach was interested in was touch heights. So I would give him updated jumps and things like that in terms of like approach touch jump heights. We could get initial ones from the Vertec, and then from there, everything I pulled was from Kinexon. So he would get updated touch heights throughout different points of the season when he would ask for them. But with them, every day they would get player load rundown from practice, and then on request, he would get the updated jump heights. With beach, they got no metrics in the fall because I was still just trying to give the coach a break from the sports science stuff because she, I guess, was kind of frustrated with it in the past. Give her a break from sports science, let her just kind of get a flow for things, and then provide essentially validation that what she was doing was working because I was still collecting everything. I just wasn't showing her anything. And then now that the spring is here, showing her a little bit, but with an action plan.
What do you mean by touch heights?
Like when you run and touch.
Okay. Oh, like an
approach jump.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know if that was something different.
Yeah. So if you have like their standing reach, and then Kinexon, anytime they hit like a new high jump, it'll take that into account. So you can put it with their standing reach and get an estimated touch height. So I would take it from typically games, especially if it was like a very hard game. You could see with our high rotation players, like what they did in the first set compared to the fourth or fifth set.
Yeah. So there's so much different companies out there collecting different things. I've actually never heard of Kinexon, so that's an interesting one.
Yeah. It's really big for court sports. So a lot of basketball programs use it. Quite a few volleyball programs use it. I use it for beach and indoor here, partly because I have a lot of crossover athletes. So if I've got indoor athletes coming out to the sand, progressing them through the same system's a little bit easier than having a catapult and a Kinexon, which are two different systems.
Is it this one?
Yes, it is. So same concept as a catapult, just different company.
Okay. So it's like, would it be classed as a GPS unit?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So it can still measure like the basic like velocities and A cells, D cells. Okay.
Yeah, so very similar metrics. I think it's just a little bit easier to use for court sports as opposed to catapult.
Yeah, that is something. So with football, I hate that I'm saying football and not American football. We couldn't actually use our GPS units in the indoor facility because it wouldn't pick up the right markers.
Yeah, you have to have a certain
right distances.
Unit. Yeah. We had catapult at SC with indoor volleyball, and they had to have like the specific unit to be able to use it indoor. But I think even then they still experienced a little bit of like live feed struggles. I don't really have that with Kinexon. It's kind of made to be able to work indoors pretty well. So yeah.
That's interesting. I need to look into them. Is there anything else that...
Great.
Sorry?
The reps for them are great, very responsive and very helpful.
See, that's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. I'll clip this. No, so I think that makes the experience with certain devices. Like Team Builder, I know someone replies to you immediately, and it's not AI. It's like a real person. And chances are that person's actually a real coach too, who's worked in the collegiate setting. There's another company, I'm not going to mention them because they were kind of shitty. But there is another GPS company that is quite responsive. But I'll need to look into Kinexon because that to me matters. And it's like I've got some deals coming up, which is the exact same thing. They're very responsive, and that to me is key. Because you'll know yourself, the amount of hours that things can crash and will crash and do crash. You need it fixed ASAP.
Yeah, thankfully my coaches don't crash out if I don't send them a report right away. I know that there's definitely probably some coaches or people that they work with that if they don't get a report immediately, they could be a little bit irritated. But if I ever do experience issues with uploading or processing data, I can either text the rep or email them super quick, and they have the problem resolved within an hour or two.
See, I wasn't even thinking coaches. I was thinking I know how fast collegiate sports is. You need to be everywhere and do everything at the same time. That's where I was thinking. I wasn't even thinking about the coaches.
Well, I've worked with coaches in the past that they want information right then and now so they can do whatever decision making they need to do, which I totally get and I understand. But sometimes I might not have the information yet, so I can't give it to you. So it can cause a little bit of stress at times.
Yeah, shit. Thankfully, I've never had any of those.
That's
again,
cool.
Yeah. What's some advice that you would give new strength coaches or coaches coming into this industry now?
I'm trying to remember what advice I gave last time so I don't do the same thing.
You can give the same thing. I think experience matters a lot. And there's always the one be a sponge. Yes.
Yeah, I think the connection piece is equally as good as being a sponge. Connections is what brought me back here to Florida State, but the connection piece also goes into how you run your program. That's why I'm able to do really fun, cool things with beach volleyball, is because I have a great connection with the staff. We all trust each other extremely well, and we have great conversations, and they can be constructive conversations. It could be me disagreeing with something that they say or them disagreeing with something I say, but these constructive conversations create a really cool product for the student athlete to ultimately get better. So I think relationship building is huge in creating those connections as well.
Yeah. With I'm going to try and word this carefully. With this open communication and access to coaches and the different communication styles, how have you found an effective way to be hey, I am a strength coach. This is what my plan usually is to fit around you, whatever else. How do you keep that line of communication clear and make sure that it's kind of going both ways?
I think first and foremost, they need to be heard. Whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them, you got to hear their ideas out. It might actually be a good idea, you didn't think of it. So I think being okay with not doing things your way, you have to be okay with that. You have to be willing to try new things. I think what builds the trust and the buy-in is being able to listen to what the coach wants. At the end of the day, we're an extension of them. So we have to align with what their goals and their priorities are, whether we agree with them or not. And even if we don't agree with them, it needs to be presented into a way where we do agree with them. How you gain trust as a unit, not only with the head coach, but with the athletes. If you're showing up kind of half in, half out with an athlete because you don't agree with what the coach wants you to do, they can see straight through that. So I think being willing to listen to them and try out their ideas, because they're the head coach for a reason, and they want you to do something a certain way for a reason. Again, whether you agree or not, it probably aligns with their program model in some way. So I think meeting with the coach and understanding where they're coming from. You don't have to just be yes, coach, I'll get it done. Ask them questions, get to know their system, get to know their philosophy, so you have more of an understanding of what you're doing. I think with this new head coach coming in, I have a lot of questions I'm going to ask them, because I want to know exactly what they want. I want to know exactly what their system is so I can integrate and be a part of it, but also be an extension of them. You shouldn't be trying to fight your head coach. You should be trying to help them.
Yeah, I think that's always what's fascinating to me about the US collegiate system is job roles can go really quick. Whole new staffs can come in. So then there's a whole new process, a whole new system that's in play. and how do you effectively add to it, I'll say?
Yeah, I mean, you can't just do things one way. I think a good example would be like the way you coach one team probably shouldn't be the same way that you coach another team. Like they're different athletes and they need different things. My communication style with different teams is different. There might be some teams that need a super loud presence, some that just like they don't need that. They need someone a little bit softer and like on their level. So I think being able to be adaptable to the different teams and the different environments is huge. The way that I like operate and communicate with beach, like it's probably going to look different than how I do with indoor, and it doesn't have to look the same. Kind of like I said earlier, like it needs to fit the system, and it needs to fit what is asked and kind of required rather than like trying to force something. If the communication style that I use with beach doesn't work with indoor, then fine, let me figure out something else. Like maybe the indoor coach that's coming in wants even more communication. Maybe they want to talk every day before practice, debrief after practice. I don't even have a weekly meeting with my beach staff. We haven't had like a single meeting, but it's because we just have free-flowing conversations throughout the day because I see them like 3 times a day with them coming into sessions and things like that. I don't really need to meet with them. Would it be helpful sometimes to have some of these meetings? Yes, to iron out specifics, but if I know what's happening and I can communicate that with other parties to make sure that everyone else is looped in, then like it works. Indoor, like maybe they want to meet once a week, twice a week. They want to have conversations around practice planning. Like again, it's going to kind of come down to the demands of what's needed and being willing to adapt to those situations and not being just stuck with one model.
Yeah, that's a brilliant way of thinking about it. Yeah, Madison, I appreciate you so much for today.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, it's always fun to speak with you, and again, I love speaking to practical coaches who aren't just about like, again, we did speak a lot about sports science, but aren't just about the sports science.
Sports science in a practical way.
Yeah, the applied sports science. No, because it's awesome to sort of see, again, when we last spoke, you were just starting at FSU, so it's kind of awesome to see like how that program was developed and how you found this like amazing flow of coaches from like these to you to then head coaches, and how that's sort of like free flowing.
Yeah, definitely a very cool and unique environment. And coming in, I don't know, like maybe 6 months ago, I feel like so much has changed and like so much growth has happened, which has been really cool to see and be a part of. And then aside from like team responsibilities, I'm helping out with the internship program and given the opportunity to help develop young coaches, which is super fun as well.
Nice. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
I'll speak to you soon. Peace.
Yeah.